This week is all about feeling sexy and confident and feeling that kind of re-spark, that kind of vigor in life, that excitement, that passion that is going to help fuel you in terms of the work that you have to do. And that's because this week we're going to be having Venus enter Leo. And because Venus is entering Leo, she's going to immediately make a trine to Saturn in Aries, immediately make a trine to Neptune in Aries. She's then going to immediately make a sextile to Uranus. And then afterwards, she's going to go opposite Pluto. And what's nice about the Venus opposition to Pluto is that there's kind of this it's hard to be afraid when you're having fun. And having fun and having passion is the easiest way to face a lot of fears, which is what a lot of the Venus-Pluto opposition is about. So a lot of this week is about feeling good, feeling passion. I think that's really exciting as we get off of this new moon in Virgo, where we really reset some intentions. We're getting ready to go into eclipse season, which is next week. So this week, I really want you to lean into feeling good, feeling passionate. We're going to talk all about that in this week's horoscope. So welcome back to the Astrology Report, this time for August 25th through August 31st of 2025. My name is Cam White. I'm super excited to go over this week with you guys because, this week is really, really fun. Next week kind of gets really serious and there's way different energy next week. This week is really, I think, about feeling good and letting that feeling kind of immerse in your body to where it can kind of translate or at least pour into all the other areas of your life too. So really make sure you lean into the fun, the passion, and the excitement this week because you're going to need it as we move forward. As well, big announcements starting on September 1st. So it's going to be Monday, September 1st. We are starting the Aspects course over on my website. If you want to learn astrology, I have the most accessible and easy way to do it. If you become a member for $50 a month, we're going to be doing a 10-week course over the aspects. And of course, aspects are like the most confusing part of astrology to people. And so what I'm going to be doing is simplifying it, but also adding to it because it's not just about, Venus is squaring Mars, but all aspects are cycles. And so what I'm going to be teaching you guys in this 10-week series is going to be all of the aspects, but all of the aspects in relationship to each other planet and how that looks in their cycles to where when you look at your birth chart, you're not just looking at whatever Mercury square Mars, but you're looking at the cycle that it holds in and of itself. So you have a deeper, richer understanding. And if you sign up to become a member, of course, you're going to get access to the Zodiac course. You're going to get access to the planets course. We just wrapped up the planets course. We just did, 18, 20 lectures of everything there is to know about the planets. The Zodiac course is my favorite one because I think the Zodiac is one of the most misunderstood things in astrology, and I really break it down to where you can become an expert on the Zodiac once it's done. All of that for $50 a month. There is no what's the word I'm looking for? There's no contract where you have to pay it for 12 months. If you just want to sign up for a month and then get off, you're more than welcome to do that. But you're also going to be getting access to monthly rising sign horoscopes and the monthly game plan, which is a member favorite where I kind of break down the month ahead and give you guys the mindset to go into the next month so you guys can conquer it. So if you are interested in learning about the aspects, we're going to be starting school during back to school season now on September 1st. And this is a really good time to sign up so you can kind of catch up on the Zodiac course, the planet course. And I have so many different lectures that are going into the Zodiac course. I have a fixed star lecture. We have the dignities lecture. I go into every single planet in every single zodiac sign so you can help or so that you can interpret your birth chart on your own. And so I'm really excited to go over this aspects course with you guys over the next few weeks. So if you want to sign up for that, this is the time to do it because essentially as we kind of keep moving forward, we're just going to keep doing more and more lectures, more and more astrology education. And I'm really passionate about this because I really try to simplify astrology in the most natural way possible so that you guys cannot get confused because I know astrology is so confusing when you first get into it. And I really break that down in the most simplistic way. And this is something that, if you read the comments over every single lecture, most people are like, wow, this is such a fucking easy way to understand it. So I'm really excited about that. Go ahead and join the membership over on the website. We're going to have the link in the description, probably the link as the pinned comment as well. I'm very excited to go over that over the next 10 weeks. So we're starting this week off on August 25th on Monday with the moon. It's going to first ingress into Libra, and then it's going to immediately make a sextile to Venus in Leo. Venus moves into Leo. Then the moon is going to be in Libra, and it's going to go opposite Saturn and Neptune. Then Venus, of course, enters Leo. That's our highlight for Monday, our first highlight for Monday. Then the moon, as it's in Libra, is going to make a trine to Pluto. It's going to trine Uranus. And then Venus, later on in the evening, is going to make a trine to Saturn and Neptune. Monday's really exciting. And, what's really fun about the current zeitgeist of society is this kind of shared collective vibe check. And right now if you're on Instagram or so, I don't know what's going on TikTok, but I'm more of an Instagram person. And a lot of people are talking about the great lock-in of August through, December of 2025. And I really I'm going to kind of speak a little bit more to that as the months go on, because the astrology between September is like eclipse season, so there's a bunch of crazy stuff, but October, November, December, January, amazing astrology. Great time to lock in. But I'm saying all of this because we just got off of this new moon in Virgo. This is a opportunity to get a little bit more in depth in that sign of Virgo, whatever it means for your chart, whatever house it rules over, before the eclipses kind of change it. However, as we just got off this new moon, this is the new moon, new you. What do you want to reset? What do you want to change? Now that we start the new week off of that new moon, we get Venus ingressing into Leo. Venus is about fun, value, connection, relationships. And in Leo, she's all about being passionate. And it's so funny, like I have found that when you are more excited, when you are more passionate, when you can put your heart into things, everything else becomes easier. And so when the moon, like, you know, I'm kind of all over the place with this one already, you know, Venus going into Leo, my challenge for you, I don't even want to say a challenge for you. I think the key here is what is fun, what is pleasurable, and how can you show it off? How can you put it out into the world? What's nice too is that as we start Monday, the moon immediately ingresses into Libra, and the moon is going to be making a sextile to Venus. So there's something about relationships and other people that are really powerful on Monday, and as the moon really goes through Libra. Why I say relationships is when the moon's going to be in Libra, emotionally, more intimately, we're going to be more connected to relationships. So maybe you just need to have a phone call with someone that's going to hype you up. Maybe you just need to have someone give you some feedback. Like, it's one of those things where if you ever feel down and then like you talk to someone and they just kind of like remind you of who you are, that puts that excitement back in your, you know, excitement tank. That's kind of the vibe. Now, as the moon goes into Libra, it will go opposite Saturn and Neptune. And the thing I wrote down is, you know, number one with Venus in Leo, it's like love and passionate. But the thing that I put with the moon in Libra opposite Saturn and Neptune is like balance in extremes. Saturn and Aries can be extremely extreme. And it could feel really harsh in the types of work that we have to do, or the types of discipline, or the limitations that we have. And the moon opposing that is kind of like, hey, you might be a little bit out of balance here. Saturn and Aries can be like, well, I got to do all of this, and I've got to do all of that, and there's all this pressure and all this hard work. The moon in Libra is opposing that, being like, okay, well, what does balance look like for this? I don't necessarily know if I agree with the idea that like there's like a work-life balance, but I do think that balance looks a lot of different ways. And I think as we start Monday, there needs to be a little bit of a balance in terms of, okay, like maybe if you've been really hard on yourself, maybe you've been really down, this is maybe the time to lean into more about feeling excited, feeling passionate, feeling like you are not resting on your laurels, but you can kind of get the recognition that you deserve. One of the title options I had for this weekly was recognition feels good. And so there is a lot of recognition this week. And I think that you should enjoy that and let it kind of fill your love tank a little bit. So, Venus goes into Leo. There's a lot of excitement. And the thing I wrote down too is visible love. Like Venus and Leo is very like, you know, like hard posting, you know, your spouse, your relationship, your partner, whatever it is, like feeling like you can show them off, feeling like you can show off the things that you love, the things that you're passionate about, which again, just puts out the excitement. It shares a positive energy. People can reflect that. Of course, you're always going to have haters, but then the moon later on in the day will then, after it goes opposite Saturn and Neptune, which happens immediately, the moon is then going to trine Pluto and Uranus. And the thing that I've talked about is when the moon ingresses into these air and fire signs, it just immediately starts hitting all the outer planets. So it's kind of like the thing that I've been thinking about is if the outer planets are more generational, if the outer planets are more circumstantial to the culture, to the mood of the collective, it's not so much that you will be feeling it, but that outside forces or outside current themes are kind of connecting to you a little bit more, if that makes sense. And so the way I look at it is the moon in Libra trining Pluto and Uranus is like using your relationships. And what I mean by using your relationships is not like, you know, when people are like, oh, you're using me. It's like people are there to help you. You are there to help other people. And there's some sort of really strong connection that you can have with the relationships in your life if you allow that to happen. If you know how to, again, the moon's going to be in Libra. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to, again, share something with someone. You're talking to a moon in Libra. Like, I'm a relationship person. Like, I love people. It's funny, given what you guys probably think of me on the other side of this. But then Venus, our second highlight of the day, as Venus goes into Leo, after she trines Saturn and Neptune, or my bad, she goes into Leo, she will then trine Saturn and Neptune at the end of the evening. And this is what I meant about recognition. The thing I wrote down was passion and fun make it easier, and you have to use this to your advantage for your vision. Saturn in Aries is incredibly tough. And I'm going to have a video breakdown about, like, you know, for the 90-day challenge people, that was like May, June, July, August, that was your introduction into the next few years for you. What did that look like for you? What were the things that you took away? What was hard? What was easy? What changed? What's different? In a lot of Saturn and Aries, Saturn is about time and being slow and old age, but Aries is about speed and quickness and agility. And so it's kind of like you have to do a lot more than you were anticipating in a very quick manner that maybe you're not ready for. As Venus goes into Leo and there's some recognition being involved, when there's some passion being involved, it makes the workload easier. Like, have you ever like really pounded away at something like and really just worked hard and like there was just nothing, and then someone was like, you got some sort of recognition or validation that like inspired you to do more? It made the work easier for you. That's the vibe. But the thing that I keep looking at with Venus trining Neptune is like, you have to use this to your advantage for your vision. What does that mean? In life, it's hard to always recognize how far we have come. And the reason I call out a lot of like behavior in astrology is that a lot of the times, because we're human beings, we're always looking for the negative because that's how we're programmed, right? We don't really look at the positive. And I call this out in astrology because we catastrophize like transits. Like any transit is going to be the worst thing ever, and it really never is. But if you are willing to give your energy and your attention to catastrophizing every little transit, you need to be willing to look at the good transits and recognize what good they have done for you. And that's difficult. Like as human beings, we're always processing the negative, and it's hard for us to recognize the positive. And the reason I'm saying this is Venus is in Leo trining Neptune in Aries. There's a lot of this like, hey, remember this moment, take in this moment, like store this in your bank, store this in your catalog so that it can help you go closer to your vision. Neptune is about, again, visualization, idealization. I just did a whole lecture about it, and it is very culturally related, but Neptune in Aries is distorting or at least romanticizing the actions, the energy, the war that we have. And when I even say the war that we have, like the war within you, like it's you versus you. And I think as Venus is in Leo trining Neptune, there's this like, don't be afraid to like be recognized. Like a lot of you would really struggle, I think, with having that recognition. Not saying that all of you would, but it is definitely difficult. Like when can you accept honors? Can you accept rewards? And this might be very subtle and small, but whatever subtle and small recognition you get, put that in the bank, store that, collect interest on that, because that's going to help you, remind you of the vision that you have, the work that you're doing. And every now and then you need to kind of remind yourself how far you have come, the work that you've done, how hard it has been. And I think that excitement, that passion, because the fire signs are about passion, they're about that like spark of life, I think will help you as you continue along. All right, 13 minutes into Monday. Let's get to fucking Tuesday. So Tuesday, the moon's going to be in Libra and it's going to conjoin Mars in Libra. Then Venus will make a sextile to Uranus. The moon after that will then make a square to Jupiter and it's going to make a sextile to Mars. And then Venus goes opposite Pluto. Kind of a turbulent day on Tuesday. The moon's going to conjoin Mars in Libra. There's going to be some fights and conflicts with relationships. Like it's going to be frustrating. Since Mars has been in Virgo, when Mars was in Virgo, I felt very low energy. And of course, Mars conjoining the South Node was very low energy. And that I felt as if that continued with Mars in Libra. If Mars is energy and it's in detriment, there's just kind of like a low energy situation to it. But the moon, emotions, conjoining Mars, anger, in the sign of Libra, relationships, there's going to be some sort of a conflict with the relationship. And I think the big thing too is trying not to overreact, trying not to, have disorderly conduct, if that makes sense. And that moment will pass. But here's the other thing is in astrology, when you kind of have these, like the moon will be doing something completely different to what everything else is going on. So, life is complex. You will have a moment where there's kind of a conflict with a relationship. But then as we get to that second highlight and Venus is in Leo making a sextile to Uranus, the thing that I haven't been able to talk to people a lot is Uranus is about, like, again, liberation, freedom, breakthrough, disruption. And now that it's in this new zodiac sign, it's in a new part of your chart. There's been some sort of introduction to something in your life that you've explored, that you've been curious about, that has kind of disrupted some things. Venus and Leo sextiling Uranus is whatever that new thing is, you're connecting to it with that, again, that passion, that excitement, that fun. And I think that's going to, again, fill your love tank again. It's like, it's so much easier to take action when you're like already in a winning mood. Like if you can stack up as many wins as possible, you're in this, projective, feel good energy where it's easier for things to keep winning. It's easier for you to feel like things are going to keep going good. And I look at that with Venus sextiling Uranus as like, there's some sort of, you're feeling this passion, you're feeling this good. The conflict with relationships might kind of bug you a little bit, but get over it. You'll have this kind of exciting thing happen. And then the moon, as it's in Libra, will square Jupiter and sextile Mercury. The thing that I look at with the moon squaring Jupiter, and we're going to talk a lot about this next week with Mars squaring Jupiter, which is kind of like a transit I've got my eye on that I don't know if it's going to be a big deal or not. But the moon in Libra squaring Jupiter in Cancer. How do we give equally? What that means is Jupiter in Cancer is a lot about giving. Jupiter in Cancer is a lot about taking care of, having a lot of abundance, and literally just being able to take care of things. But the moon in Libra squaring it is like, well, how do you give equally, or how do you give equitably? How do you balance that out? Like, how do you ration what you can give proportionately? And I think there might be a situation on Thursday where you have to go like, okay, I can't give all my energy to just this one thing. I have to kind of balance it out in certain situations. Then after that, the moon is going to be making a sextile to Mercury, where I just look at this as great communication, confidence shared. If you have people in your life where you can share your wins with and they can share their wins with you to share that excitement, I think that's great for Tuesday, especially after that kind of relationship conflict you might experience on Tuesday. But then Venus also goes opposite Pluto. The thing I wrote down was fun goes against fear. What I mean by that is when you kind of take things too seriously, it's really easy for you to not have fun. It's really easy for you to let fear kind of overwhelm you. And Pluto makes the big things really small. And I kind of wonder what's going on in your life that you can kind of minimize just through having fun, like just through having joy. I really think about like the last election cycle where I don't remember if this was like actually what they ran on, but there was the term of like Kamala Harris running off of joy. And I still thought that was really fun. And there's something about Pluto and Aquarius, so many people are afraid of what other people think or what their group thinks. And it's so much easier to minimize it when you are in a playful attitude about it. This is something I talk a lot about with like Uranus and Gemini, and just allowing yourself to be curious, not having an expectation on what the result is going to be, but just having fun, just putting your heart into it and not taking it all that seriously. And the reason I'm even saying all this is, yeah, Venus is going to go into Leo and do all this stuff, but this is important stuff to fill in your tank. It's the same thing as if you're willing to look at all the bad things that have happened to you in your life, then you have to be equally willing to look at all the good things that have happened to you in your life. And I want you to keep refilling that tank of passion, of excitement, of all the good things, because that's going to help motivate you and keep you in the right mind frame to keep going. So then we get to Wednesday, and the rest of the week, really not much happens. And I think that's good because I want you to kind of I want that excitement. I want that passion. I want that, glamorous energy to seep into the rest of the week. I want you to be off a high off of that, like an afterglow for the rest of the week. So there's not too many major astrology transits, but the moon is doing stuff. So for example, on Wednesday, the moon will be in Libra and it's void until about 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Not a lot's going on Wednesday, but later on in the evening, the moon then goes into Scorpio. Okay, so now we're going to get a little bit of some emo here, because as the moon goes into Scorpio, it's going into detriment. It's going to immediately square Pluto, and late at night, it's going to square Venus. This reminds me of, there's like the trope of you're not I think of like high school girl movie trope where she's not pretty enough, or she doesn't look like the other girls, so she like radically changes her appearance and it like makes it worse. Like Moon in Scorpio squaring Venus is like you buy the dress that you think you try to wear the fit, and the fit you don't got that shit on, you don't look good, and so then you like slit your wrist. I'm just kidding. Like maybe that was a little bit too graphic, but there's like this level of like, oh, I don't look good in it, I look fat, I look ugly. Do you remember that scene from White Chicks where they go into the dressing room and the Tina the Talking Tummy? I think about her a lot. That's kind of the mood on Wednesday night. Here's what I want you to do on Wednesday night. The second you start getting emo, just go to bed. Don't spiral. Don't be like, I'm not good enough. I didn't perform well enough. I'm not having all that fun. I think the vibe of Monday and Tuesday is really, really high, but then there's just like this emo energy that comes out late Wednesday night. And I think the best thing for you to do is just kind of like accept it and don't lean into it any more than you have to, and just honestly go to bed. Because then on Tuesday, the moon's going to be in Scorpio and it's going to sextile the sun in Virgo. What I like about this is that there's this, the sun in Virgo is being very picky, very organized, and the moon in Scorpio is like, I don't like this feeling. What I like about this relationship is while you are in a place where like, I don't like this emotion, I don't like this feeling, the sun in Virgo is like, okay, what do I want to do about it? How do I want to change? Let me get orderly. Let me get precise to figure out what needs to change in order so I don't feel this emotion again. So I think Thursday has like this kind of nice energy. I think it's a much more practical use case for the moon in Scorpio versus like Wednesday night, don't do anything. Like just the second you start feeling bad, go to sleep. Thursday, we could start being practical and organized on how we do it. The other thing that's going on Thursday is Uranus is making a sextile to Neptune. Look, this is a much bigger like outer planet transit. I don't necessarily know how much it's going to affect your day-to-day, or if it does, how much you're really aware of it going on. Because that's one of the harder things to understand when these really bigger cycles happen, is like the awareness of what it's looking like in your life is much more difficult. I think what you'll end up kind of seeing again, we'll go into this more when we start getting into 2026 horoscopes and stuff like that, is like, you know, the stable coin stuff, the digital ID stuff. You know, this is Uranus and Gemini, new technology, you know, being assisted by Neptune and Aries, the kind of like new, like everyone's like a creator now. And again, I don't want to go too deep on a rant here, but the only thing I would say is if you've got the awareness around what Neptune and Aries has been doing for you and what Uranus and Gemini has been doing for you, there's something really subtle but really big that kind of clicks here. And you may not even see it on that day. It might take some time for it to really become aware, but that's just something to like, you might get a message or an email, or you might read something that just ends up clicking, and it's a much bigger deal later on than maybe you even notice in that moment. But Thursday, moon in Scorpio, sextiling sun in Virgo is just essentially, hey, you're not going to be feeling good, but it's really pragmatic for making the changes that you need to make in order to not feel that way anymore. And then we get to Friday, and on Friday, the moon's going to be in Scorpio. It's going to make a trine to Jupiter and then make a square to Mercury. Okay, so this is kind of an interesting day. The moon in Scorpio trining Jupiter in Cancer is really a take care of yourself thing, and really a take care of yourself day, a self-care day. And what I don't want you to do is use bad habits and do bad things that you know actually aren't taking care of you, but it makes you feel good. It's temporary relief. Because I think that's a really high chance of that during this time. But the moon, the moon in Scorpio trining Jupiter in Cancer, I think there is energy, or at least a access point for you to look at what you're feeling emotionally. And, you know, it's again, I'm not trying to be religious, but it's kind of like, you ever just give things to God? You ever just like, you know what? It's out of my hands. It's out of my control. I have to let this feeling go. That could look so many different ways. But there's something about Jupiter, which is about faith, which is about hope, which is about abundance. It's on the come up. Like the moon in Scorpio is like, man, I don't like this feeling anymore. Do something, whether it's, again, it could be taking a bath. It could be, I don't know, whatever that looks like for you. Just kind of ritualize the situation for the bad emotions to kind of go away. Now, this is also something good, as in the moon is going to make a trine to Jupiter. Something good could happen that kind of alleviates a lot of the negative emotions, where you're like, well, I don't feel bad anymore because cool thing happened. So there's that. But then the moon is going to be squaring Mercury for the rest of the day. The thing I wrote down is don't pop off or do pop off. The moon in Scorpio squaring Mercury in Leo is, the older I get, I've got to like really get my thoughts around this clearly, but boomers are right about a lot of things. Like, you know how boomers will complain that like someone isn't speaking English on the phone? I feel like that for Gen Zs now is like when it's like a robot or AI, and you just kind of lose it. The moon in Scorpio squaring Mercury in Leo is just kind of like when you just had enough of a certain behavior, of a certain thing, and your patience is low. It's the right place at the right time. This could get you into trouble, but the chances of you popping off or someone popping off on you are really, really high. Do with that what you will. I don't care. But you will get the consequences for your actions on that. And I think the other thing, though, is don't let the way that someone's communicating or expressing, even though it might be very bold and loud, affect your emotions. Like have a little bit of stoicism going into Friday, because something good's going to happen, but then there's some sort of communication that happens that kind of, you know, squares you, that kind of rubs you the wrong way. And you might pop off, you might not. I would suggest not popping off, unless maybe you really want to. It's your life. But then we get to Saturday, and Saturday is where we get back to the exciting emotions. Because again, I don't know what it is about. It's like Monday, Tuesday, super exciting, even though there's those issues. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, emo. kind of a little bit in the rut. And then Saturday, we get back to that exciting feeling. It's so fun being a human being with all types of emotions. The moon goes into Sagittarius. It's going to make a trine to Saturn in Aries. Then the moon is going to trine Neptune. And then it's going to go opposite Uranus. It's going to sextile Pluto. And I have to say that every single time the moon goes into a fire and air sign. Then the moon is going to make a trine to Venus for the rest of the day. Saturday's fun. I think Saturday's extremely exciting because essentially the moon literally goes into Sag right first thing in the morning. We're talking about freedom, excitement, adventure. There's a passion. There's like you kind of get out of your shell. You get out of your depressive episode and now you're excited to make some changes. The moon is going to be in Sag. It's going to trine Saturn. There's going to be some freedom and fun. And that freedom energy, that excitement energy, that kind of shrugging it off and laughing it off energy is going to give you some confidence to do the work that it takes. Like, it's kind of like, okay, I'm emo, but now I can have a little bit more fun. And the things that I need to do that are really hard, I'm excited about doing them now. Like there's just some sort of shaking it off, not letting it get to you, laughing it off, and being able to use that excitement to, again, Saturn and Aries, the discipline, the time, the structure in terms of what it is that you need to do, because you got to do it now, you got to do it quick. The moon, of course, then trines Neptune in Aries, which is like, okay, how is this playing into the vision that we're trying to create? How can we use this vision? How can we use this ideal to re-identify ourselves? That whole thing. You have to trust the vision and the bigger goal with all that. The moon goes opposite Uranus, where there is some breakthrough stuff going on here. Like the moon in Sag is like this excitement, I just want to do this, but it's being opposed by or I should say it is opposing Uranus in Gemini. So it's just a little chaotic. Like you ever, your phone slips and you kind of just overreact and then everything's kind of a mess, like a cat kind of gets scared or something and then they just like break everything. That's kind of the mood, but it's really not that big of a deal. It's more funny if anything. But the moon is in Sag and it's trining Venus and Leo. I think Saturday night's great. Like if you go out on Saturday night Saturday night's gonna be a really, really fun time, in my opinion. Excitement and passion is incredibly sexy and magnetic. Like the moon in Sag is being able to laugh it off, not take it all that seriously, look at the bigger picture. And I think that kind of alleviates a lot of that pressure. Because again, Venus and Leo, I mean, like, again, I'm speaking to mostly women here. There's got to be a moment where, I feel bad after DJing so many weddings, like every now and then I'll get like some wedding content. And there was this one girl who got her hair did. And I don't know what to call this thing that she had in the back of her head, but it just looked like a big turd. Like it didn't look good. I felt so bad for her. And there's like, when you're trying to be pretty or you're trying to put yourself out there, it's like high stakes almost, like of like all of this pressure. I look at the moon in Sag trining Venus and Leo as like being able to be light about it, being able to see the bigger picture and have fun alleviates a lot of that pressure, where you can be more of yourself, where you can be more confident, where you can just feel that confidence and that radiation. And again, that is incredibly magnetic and it's incredibly sexy. So there's something about Saturday night of just being able to have fun with it, enjoy your time, and feel good. And that brings us to Sunday. On Sunday, the one thing I wrote down for Sunday is all we have is the moon in Sagittarius making a sextile to Mars in Libra. And there's two ways to go about this. Either bring the friend who doesn't want to go or ignore them. Like if you ever like, and I'm totally this person depending on the context. It's either like I'm like the person who wants to go and I'm going to bring someone along even if they don't want to, or I'm like the person who I'm like, I don't want to go. This is stupid and gay. The moon in Sag sextiling Mars in Libra is very like having to deal with that type of person, but not letting it affect you, not letting it, get the best of you, like being like, all right, well, you're going to be, a Debbie Downer, but I'm still going to have my fun anyway. So the moon in Sag sextiling Mars in Libra too, in terms of like taking action and energy, it just seems, relatively fine. I think the moon in Sag is a little bit more excited, and that's maybe helping Mars in Libra, because Mars in Libra is, again, which action do I take? I feel very imbalanced, maybe even low energy. And so I think Sunday is just kind of a genuinely chill day where excitement and hope kind of brings some energy to the game. Okay, next week. So, by the way, enjoy this week. This week is like such a weird, like, if you ever watch a movie where they have like at least a 1 minute scene that's like, well, that was really nice, and not really in context of everything else in the movie. That's like what this week is, because next week we start September. Saturn goes back into Pisces. Are you ready to revisit January through April of 2025, January through May of 2025? We're coming back to that. Mercury's going to go into Virgo. We get into Poindexter mode. Mercury's going to square Uranus. Mercury and Virgo squaring Uranus. What's the story? The Tower of Babel, where everyone falls and they all speak a different language. That's what that reminds me of. Mars squares Jupiter. Mars squares Jupiter next week. Kind of a big blow up. And then we have the lunar eclipse in Pisces. The vibe shift next week is so loud. It's so obvious. Like, this is going to be a fun week. It's really not all that deep. Try to have fun with it. Store it in your bank because you're going to need it for next week. Next week is like all like major shit in your life is changing next week. And I don't say that lightly. You guys know me. I don't say that kind of shit lightly. But next week is a huge vibe shift. So with that being said, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Like I said, if you want to learn more about the aspects, you want to become a master at them, go ahead and join the Learn Astrology membership tier. The link will be in the description. I'm going to try to remember my best to pin it in the comment, and I will be seeing you guys next week.